Power, proximity, and the hidden weight of leadership is our episode topic. My guest is Lindsay Osting, president of Ohio Health Doctors Hospital and author of The Glass Desk, which is available on Substack. So let's get started.
Welcome to the BRG Nurse Executive Podcast. BRG is a global consulting firm that helps organizations in disputes and investigations, corporate finance, and performance improvement and advisory. BRG's healthcare performance improvement practice offers multidisciplinary services to healthcare organizations. We focus on implementation with innovative, independent, and data-driven solutions. In the BRG Nurse Executive Podcast, we discuss improving patient care by advancing nursing leadership. For more information about BRG, please visit thinkbrg.com. Now here's your host, Nick Chmielewski.
Lindsay, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Before we get into our episode topic, can you share a little bit about yourself with our listeners?
I am currently a hospital president. Before that, I was a chief nursing officer. I am an RN by trade, and I've spent over 20 years now in some sort of hospital leadership.
And we've known each other for maybe 15 years now. And
Yeah.
we met in the AONL Nurse Manager Fellowship Program back in the days when you were a nurse manager and I was working essentially as a nursing supervisor. And I was just scrolling the other day and saw you writing on this thing called The Glass Desk. Can you tell me a little bit more about your writings, and then we'll get into the specifics about it? Because I was just blown away by you're a great writer, and everyone else should be reading this. So tell me a little bit about your writings in The Glass Desk.
It's really either things I've experienced in my career that I think other women may have experienced, or something I maybe experienced recently. So the first couple I've talked about things that happened earlier in my career, and then the last one was really something that happened recently, a lunch with some other colleagues. It depends what I'm thinking about at the time, but I'm trying to get 2 out a month and really just concentrate on something I remember in my career or something that's happened recently that I really think other women can connect to.
And how'd you get into this line of, I want to share my story, I want to get out there and write?
I actually started it because it was kind of cathartic for myself. And then I thought, I'll just post it and see if anyone feels like reading it. And then I started getting readers and shared it with a couple friends and said, is this something you'd think you'd read? And they really liked it. And so I twice put my posts on LinkedIn because I have a pretty big community, and got a ton of people from that who were interested in joining me and the actual blog.
And so let's get into some of the specifics. You write about in The Glass Desk that it's not the ceiling, but the polished surface where women are visible, accomplished, yet still constrained. What does The Glass Desk represent to you right now in your own leadership journey?
I think it is hard enough to get to the glass desk for women. And what it represents to me is you've made it to the desk, but the ceiling in a lot of situations still has not been broken. Even though we may seem like we're accomplished and high in our career, there are actually more milestones that as women, the higher up we get, the harder it can be sometimes to overcome those.
And you mentioned in one of your articles that competence alone eventually stops being enough at a level. But when does it become the differentiator, and why isn't anyone explicit about it?
Once you're getting to a director level, and if you take hospitals, for example, as a nurse manager, you're in scrubs a lot. And then as you get into higher roles, the expectations are changing from how you're expected to dress, communicate. Everyone is judging you all the time, and people don't like to hear that because we're taught not to do it. And sometimes I think people don't like to talk about it because it may seem vain. But how you present, how you talk, how people view you, whether it's people above you, your peers, people below you, is the differentiator in who goes farther.
In the article titled Learning Not to Overcarry, you talk about the instinct to absorb impact before it reaches the customer or the organization. How do you personally decide when as a leader to step in and when to let your team learn through mistakes and or discomfort? What's that differentiating factor for you, particularly now as a hospital president?
It's the level of impact that the frontline customer or consumer will feel. If it's something that I can if I can let people go slower because it's process and it's something that isn't going to either directly impact or impact in a way that would cause harm or really hurt that experience of the frontline customer, then I'll let it go slower. But if it's something where it's going to impact patient care, could harm a patient, or is really going to impact that experience that they or their loved ones experience, is when I jump in quicker and say, all right, we can't, I will help you, but we've got to move faster and you have to take some more of my advice as opposed to me letting you figure it out on your own.
And let me step back for a moment because I used the word overcarry before, but what exactly are we talking about when we use that word overcarry?
Overcarry is really taking on more than your part of the share. So something that we talk about is owning your 100% at my hospital. And it's when you're starting to take on more than you should have to for your job.
And do you think that women leaders are conditioned to overcarry more than male counterparts?
I really feel like women are taught to just do whatever's asked and be quiet about it. And I see that a lot with my physician leaders that are women. An example would be a lot of their male counterparts are saying, my in basket and Epic's overloaded. I need help. I need a medical assistant that can help me manage this. And the females are just doing it. And there's something to, I'm a leader now. And if I don't want to be the whiny one, I don't want to be the one that's always complaining. I'm in a leadership role. I can't complain in any part of my job because it will reflect poorly on me as a person and a leader. And where the men just don't feel that way. And it's not wrong that they don't feel that way. It's just they're saying, for me to be successful, I need an MA to help me with my in basket. And we could learn from that as women, that it's okay to speak up.
At what point does responsibility become self-sacrifice? And how do you protect against that, not only for yourself, but also for the people that you work with, whether it be your subordinates or your physician partners?
If you're struggling to do your job and your everyday tasks and leadership, what you need to do to get everyone on board and guide them in a direction, if you can't get that done, then you're overloaded and overwhelmed. And one really good way to look at it is sit down and say, what are my goals for this year? Personal, for my professional life, for my work life, for the people underneath me, and how do those all align? And then what am I doing on a daily basis? And if what I'm doing on a daily basis is not helping meet any of the goals, maybe I should question why I'm doing them. Second, if they are something that needs to be done and I'm feeling overwhelmed by them, reaching out and saying, I have all this on my plate, I need help in this area, is completely fine. And it's a good way to try to make sure that you're able to meet all your goals, but also not overcarry.
You had another article titled Pants and Scissors, and that story also was powerful. How did that moment shape the way you now define executive presence for others?
The first thing it did was it taught me how much everyone's looking at you all the time and they're judging, even if it's not a wrong type of judgment or if it can be harsh, but you are always being judged. And if you can't come looking a certain way, put together, things like that, then your competency is almost questioned. If you have to cut your pants because you don't have enough money to get them tailored, which is what the story talks about, that's almost being seen as being incompetent as a leader. And that was kind of the feedback I got. And what that changed about how I looked at executive presence is how you look and how you talk is a huge piece of it.
And so to the nurse managers that are moving into director roles and the directors that are moving into CNO roles and the CNOs that are moving into president roles, what type of things should they be thinking about as they're moving into those roles as it relates to presence and how you're presenting yourself?
From a communication standpoint, it's really making sure you're active listening, taking the time to active listen, because sometimes you're a nurse manager because you were the one that always raised your hand and said, hey, there's an issue here, or hey, I have an idea about how we can make something better. And the higher up you get, the more people also need to weigh in, or at least feel they need to weigh in, and you need to let that happen to be able to influence them and let them buy into whatever it is you're trying to accomplish.
What practical things can organizations do to democratize access to leadership beyond mentorship panels and lip service?
Back to one of your earlier questions of why does no one talk about it? I feel like if you really struggle with something, then you get feedback and you try to fix it. But some of this is just, I'm okay at it. I need to take it to the next level. And it's multifactorial. And as organizations, we need to be looking to who can help our people do this. Some organizations may have it internally that they can support, but it's everything, again, from how do I talk in public? How do I talk in meetings? How do I listen appropriately? How do I say the right thing at the right time? And how do I look while I'm doing it? And it's not about looking pretty or handsome. It's about how do I look put together and polished so that people automatically start assuming, well, if they look put together and polished, their thoughts must be put together and polished. And people totally make that correlation.
Let's shift a little bit and talk about proximity, power, and cultural fluency. You wrote an article about golfing, actually. And you stated in that article that golf was never about golf, it was about proximity. So, how should emerging leaders think about cultural fluency, learning the system without losing themselves in the process? Because, like, maybe golf isn't your thing, maybe hockey's your thing, maybe
Right.
cheerleading is your thing. How do we balance that?
I think it is taking the opportunities you're given. If you are asked to a happy hour, if you're asked to a breakfast, if you're invited to golf or invited to do something else that you don't like necessarily, or you feel like you shouldn't have to do, I would take the opportunity because what it allows is you to have time with people who can influence your career, be your sponsors in rooms that you're not in. They can help get your ideas forward, and they can also be sometimes the people that are promoting you into your next role.
And so, all right, so someone wants to take me golfing, and let's say that I've never been golfing before, or it's some other event that I have no experience to. How do you handle yourself in that situation? Would you be upfront and say, I've actually never done that before. Maybe it'd be great if I come along and watch, or do you go take lessons and pay a lot of money for lessons before you get there and potentially embarrass yourself? Like, how do you handle that?
So for golf, I was just honest. I was like, I have clubs. I've never used them. They needed a fourth one day and it someone had canceled late. And they said, I know this is gonna be like in a couple days. And I said, well, if you guys are fine with me just kind of going out there and is this like more of a have fun? And they're like, oh yeah, it's a fundraiser. And we would love it if you would just come out with us and play however much you want, hit whatever you can. I had the experience of being able to be in an event where it wasn't overly serious. I think a lot of times those events are not overly serious.
Got it. What's something that you've intentionally stopped editing about yourself as you've grown into your role?
I'm always editing myself. And the reason I say that is different people take messages differently. Everyone runs everything you say and how you look and everything that you're doing on a daily basis through their own filter. So I'm constantly editing myself to try and understand who is my audience, who am I talking to, and how are they best going to perceive me? Because if I show up to a frontline associate meeting wearing a black power suit that I would wear to a finance meeting, that can be really intimidating. So how do I dress a little softer so that I already feel more approachable from the start? Because my title already makes me not approachable. If we allow ourselves to not take it personal about needing to edit ourselves a little bit here and there, and really it's not personal, it's all about how everyone else views the world, then I feel that's the way you can be successful in any type of environment.
So I'm just curious, on days where you have a finance meeting and then you have a staff meeting in the same day, are we changing outfits?
Good question.
Are we finding an outfit that hits both? Can you have an outfit that hits both? How's that work?
So I try not to have that happen. On the rare occasion it may, I will lose the jacket and maybe put a sweater on or wear something underneath, like maybe a dress with a jacket and then take the jacket off to talk with the associate. So I would not wear the exact same thing. I would change it up, not change the whole outfit because that I don't know, it could be worth it, but it's extreme. But I try to make the outfit work for both.
Yeah, and for the guys that are listening, clearly this is take off your jacket, take off your tie. I mean,
Yeah.
those are probably maybe much easier to do as a man. I'm just wondering, you mentioned earlier, do you actually try to cultivate your schedule around audiences so that your outfits are appropriately
Yeah.
okay?
My admin helps me with that. She
Okay.
knows there are certain days, like, let's try not to do this or not to do that. And let's just try to keep it higher level stuff.
I would have never thought about that. How many other women do you think about that in the scheduling that they do as an executive in a hospital?
I don't know, but I think a lot of people dress for their day. Like you look and you're like, oh, I got this power meeting with me. I'm defending my budget to the CFO.
Yeah.
I got to wear a power suit, but you got to look at the whole day. And so I think sometimes we dress for the
The most
meeting.
important. Yeah.
Yeah, the most important meeting, but we never think about, well, maybe I shouldn't put a lunch with, my frontline managers that day, or how can I pivot my outfit and change it a little bit so that, again, I'm not so intimidating or whatever.
So if a young woman is listening right now, sitting at her own version of the glass desk, she's stepping into a manager role, or she's, just been made a charge nurse. What's one rule that you would tell her she's allowed to question?
I would say you can question everything. You have to do it appropriately, and you have to listen to the response. And depending on the response you get, make a wise decision around, is this then something I need to follow or do? Or is it something I don't need to change about myself? And I think organizational culture is going to drive that. So there may be certain cultures that say you need to dress up more, and you think I do look nice. And they're like, no, we want you in a suit 3 days a week or something. Or there may be organizations that say, we want you to speak up more in meetings with executives, or we want you to be quieter and just listen. This is about your learning. And so how you take that feedback and decide to apply it or listen to it, again, I think really you kind of have to go through that for yourself. And it may not be the same thing in each situation or each job that you're choosing to do about yourself.
At what point in your career did you start having a coach? And when should a woman think about getting a coach in their career as they want to accelerate and advance within leadership roles?
I think as soon as you can. I had a coach as a manager, but it was someone who I was introduced to by a friend who was just getting her company off the ground and wanted to use me as a guinea pig, as like how to maybe work through stuff and create the program around it. So I was free of charge. That is not something I could have paid for, or I think organizations always do with manager level. Typically, though, at a director level, you definitely want to look at getting a coach. Even if it's not all the time, maybe it's a 6 to 9 month engagement just to get some 360 feedback and have that first coaching experience, getting and receiving feedback. How do you act on it? How do you not just pay attention to the one negative thing that was said? How do you keep doing the things that people said you're good at? Definitely at the director level. If you can't afford it, I think that's something that I would definitely ask your organization. And if you're a high performer, I would definitely go in with a potential ROI on how getting you a coach, maybe working on a project with your coach, could have a positive return on investment for the organization.
And so the way that you're describing this coach, what I'm hearing is this would be someone external. This isn't a peer or a buddy or a mentor. This is someone that does executive coaching or managerial coaching for a living. Is that an accurate statement?
Yes. And I think you need all of the above. So I have had a coach on and off throughout my career. I've had a couple different mentors. I've had a therapist. I've had a life coach. And I think depending on your personal life, what you're dealing with is when you have some combo of those.
Any closing thoughts as we wrap up this episode?
Let's break the glass ceiling. We're at the glass desk. There's a lot of us that are there. And I would love if people would join my blog on Substack and also contribute, have thoughts about things they've experienced too. Again, I'm just getting this off the ground and trying to amalgamate what it's actually going to look like. But up to this point, I feel like what people have commented back on my post has been really powerful. And it just lets us feel, as women, I feel like there's other people out there experiencing the same things.
Power, proximity, and the hidden weight of leadership has been our episode topic. Lindsay Osteen, author of The Glass Desk, which you can find on Substack. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the BRG Nurse Executive Podcast, which focuses on improving patient care by advancing nursing leadership. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the host and podcast guest and do not necessarily reflect the opinions, position, or policy of the guest employer, Berkeley Research Group, or their other respective employees and affiliates.